I think it's about that time that you dump that mirror. Coming right up. Testing one. Behind you with like the clouds, the sky and everything, and still be able to see. We've got the Rode video mic. Here we go. M50. What do you guys think? Hello, Magnus here, and if you're new to my channel, consider subscribing. I talk about mirrorless and DSLR cameras, specifically for video, but sometimes for taking pictures and accessories. Welcome if you're new. Now today I'm going to talk about Canon and Nikon, and the fact that 2018 just might be the year where they start to introduce full-frame mirrorless cameras to the market. Now these are going to be specific. These are going to be my opinion. This is nobody else's opinion. I came up with this list, but I think this list will be key for them to actually catch interest with the market and possibly at least compete somewhat with Sony and Panasonic and Fuji, for example, for mirrorless cameras. What am I talking about? I'm talking about the top 5 things that Canon and Nikon can do to start to compete with the other mirrorless manufacturers when it comes to that type of camera. Now they can't jump in right away. Obviously you have to have a slow gradual progression. I don't think that Canon or Nikon can compete with the technology of someone like Sony, who's already multiple years in on full frame serious digital cameras. But at least this will be a good start to give them a run for their money. Canon is still, for example, the #1 professional camera manufacturer in the market. They're leaps and bounds over Nikon or anyone else in the competition. But you've got mirrorless manufacturers catching up. I mean, Sony was a good #3, and there was a short time, a couple of months last year, that Sony actually overtook Nikon. And it might have been this year too. Not quite sure. You could correct me on that if you want. So let's start with top 5 things that Canon and Nikon can do to compete with their competition. Number 5, improve the autofocus. Now the autofocus on the Nikon, I don't think I even need to address. It does not even come close to Canon's dual pixel autofocus. And then when you see Canon's dual pixel autofocus, you wonder, why would you even think that it's a problem? Well, Canon is great when it comes to video dual pixel autofocus, but you've got to hand it to Sony for their eye autofocus. The fact that they can get very precise and hit up on the eye when it comes to autofocusing and really get you some sharp pictures at those higher resolutions. Canon doesn't really have that. That dual pixel autofocus, though it's great during video, when taking pictures, it's not as fast or as precise. You have those limited, I believe 61 autofocus points on the 5D Mark IV, for example, that kind of that leave the focus area in the center, and it's not as quick. So improving that autofocus would be really key to actually enter that market and compete with the competition. Now number 4, ensure that the full frame DSLR lenses work with the mirrorless bodies that are full frame as well. Now, you've got an impressive amount of lenses available for the Canon bodies and the Nikon bodies for the DSLR cameras, but what you don't have is an impressive amount of lenses on the mirrorless bodies. And that right there could be considered a flaw, because what you really want is to be able to have a large lens selection if you're going to be taken seriously. So what do? You get a lens adapter, and a lens adapter would help pretty much make all of these full frame lenses work with those mirrorless bodies, because as you can see, they're really designed for a pretty large flange distance on these DSLR bodies. Now if you can accommodate these type of lenses with those adapters, that would help when it comes to the transitioning of anyone who's used to the DSLR bodies that might be interested in their mirrorless bodies, move over without having to struggle and buy a whole new set of lenses that are probably not even available yet. So that right there is why I think they should at least have it work pretty accurately. Now, you know that lens adapters are not great, or usually not that great, when it comes to working as it should on bodies. For example, if the lens is not designed for that type of body, it might not work accurately with the adapter. But if the Canon makes its own adapter, well, then they can test against their own lenses and ensure that it works as it should. Nikon and Canon should definitely consider working on those adapters and making sure that they work for their mirrorless bodies. Number 3, compete with other mirrorless cameras in full frame 4K, at the very least 30 frames per second. Now, I'm not asking for it to do 10-bit 422 at 60 frames per second 4K. That is a bit excessive, and though the Panasonic GH5 can do 10-bit 422 at 30 frames per second and 4K at 60p, that's an amazing feat. We're not asking for Canon and Nikon to catch up to that because it's unnecessary. They just need to deliver amazing 4K full frame video, which is what we're all waiting for, and that would be amazing off a mirrorless body. And number 2, in-body image stabilization. Now, I can tell that stabilizing a sensor when you've got a mirror in front of your sensor and you've got all this space, it's kind of hard to introduce in-body stabilization because you've got so many moving parts in a full-frame DSLR. But when it comes to a mirrorless body where all you have is really the sensor and then the lens that's attached to the camera, you've got a lot of space that the sensor can move around there, and you can program your camera. Sony already does it, and Panasonic already does it on their mirrorless bodies, is get at least some entry-level in-body image stabilization. That would be an amazing, attractive feature that would bring in possibly new shooters who are tired of using Sony and their interesting color science that at times can be difficult to work with, or Panasonic with their micro four thirds sensor and they want to move up in size but not jump to the Sony. Well, with a Canon or Nikon, you can give a better option and amazing feature. And I believe the number one important thing for Nikon and Canon when it comes to entering the full frame mirrorless competition, make it affordable. Don't start off on the high end and making a full frame that's pretty much toe-to-toe with 1DX Mark II, for example. That doesn't make any sense. It really makes sense and to start in the prosumer level, kind of like where the GH5 or the A7 III is, which is almost pretty much pro at that point, and attract that $2,000 or within $1,500 market that really wants to take it to the next level, and to attach them to a Canon or Nikon brand would be amazing. The Canon and Nikon brand name mixed with affordability, mixed with full frame, mixed with mirrorless technology, and you can't lose. Just price it right, and the customers will come running to you. Now, of course, there's concern of cannibalization. You know, I might dump this just to get a mirrorless camera, but you're also going to get those amateur wanting to go pro photographers that are just used to using smartphones or digital cameras that really don't use mirrors. And this might seem kind of ancient. Gotta get with the times, man. And the times are going mirrorless. But that's my opinion. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Got a question for you. If Nikon and Canon were to release full-frame mirrorless cameras this year at an affordable price, who would you run to? Canon or Nikon? Who would be better? Let me know why in those comments below. And as always, like, share, and you can make my day if you subscribe today. This is Magnus, and I'm out. Thank you for watching. And P.S., if you stuck around this far, I'm planning a giveaway within the next couple of videos. So if you definitely want to be a part of that, subscribe now. And I just got to figure out exactly how to run this giveaway. But once I've got it running, one of my subscribers is going to win something interesting. You could even let me know in the comments down below what it is that you want. Don't go too crazy, but in fact, go crazy. We'll see if something catches my eye, and then it could end up in your pockets. See you later. Bye-bye.